Kathleen H. I am the SheJumps Ambassador in Southwest Virginia, and I am based out of Roanoke. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to fix a flat on your bike, whether it's at home or trailside. First, I'm going to go over some tools with you real quick. At the floor pump, this is going to be your easiest way of getting your tire up to the best air pressure that you will need. The next important tool to have is your inner tube. You're going to want to make sure that this is in the appropriate size for the bike that you're riding. When you're out riding, don't expect somebody else to have the same size that you have and have you covered for that. So make sure you've got that. Next, you're going to at least one, maybe two tire levers, depending on how tight your tires are to take on and off. So you've got those. And then for trailside repair, it's good to carry either a CO2 cartridge inflator and for that, as well as or a mini pump. Sorry about that. So either option's a great one. For the mini pump, I recommend doing like a mini floor pump style because you get most efficient pumping action with that. And then lastly, it's great to carry a dollar bill, and I'll go over a little trick with that so you know what I'm talking about. All right, so now we're going to move to the bike to see about taking the rear wheel off for fixing a flat. You'll see that the rear tire has no air in it. And I've chosen to show you the rear wheel since it's got the cassette, chain, and derailleur back here. Sometimes it can seem like there's a lot going on, a little bit harder to deal with in the front. But first things first, I want to point out that while I am using a repair stand, it is not a required tool to have. It just makes it a little bit easier. If you're trailside, if you have a buddy you're riding with, they can hold your rear bike up for you while you rotate it and shift it to the smallest ring in the back. Shifting it to the smallest ring is going to make it much easier to take the wheel off the bike and putting the wheel back on. So if you're by yourself while you're trailside, you can just kind of shift it, lift it back up, and rotate the wheel. Make sure you get down to there. All right, so I'm going to loosen up here. All right, so sometimes you can also push down on this lower part of the derailleur if you need to, and the wheel just drops straight out. All right, minimal mess there. So we only need to do one side of the tire for fixing the flat. One thing you want to do is look around the outside of the tire to make sure there's nothing evident, like a piece of glass, a nail, or anything like that. So what we're going to do now is take this tire off. All right, so first, if you've got a Presta valve like this one here, some tubes have a Schrader valve on them. But if you've got a Presta, you might have one of these little lock washer type things. So we're going to take that guy off first, get it out of the way. And before we go to the next step, give your tire a good look over. As I mentioned before, make sure that there's nothing protruding that may have caused the flat and give you an indication where that flat is. As you'll notice on here, there's this nice little ring on my dirty tire that goes all the way around the tire. So I'll give a little pointer about that in a little bit. You'll usually need to break the seal on the bead of the tire, so you might need to go around and do this. Just makes it a little bit easier to get that tire off. All right, got that done. Next, I'm going to take my tire lever. And I really like these Pedro's ones. They fit in the hand really well, and are really strong and durable also. So I'm going to go all the way around. Sometimes you got to backtrack a little bit, I find, get it going, and then there you go. Just going to go all the way around there. All right, so now you got that. If there's still a little bit of air in your tube, go ahead and let the rest of the air out. All right, and you only need to undo one side of your tire for this. So I'm going to pull this guy out. All right, so typically I like to kind of keep the tube oriented where it was in that tire and pump it up with a little bit of air. You can use your breath, you can use a pump, whichever works for you, and give it a little pump to see where the air is coming out of the tube. If it's too little, cuts, it looked like a little snake bit it. That means you had a pinch flat. And now it's just a situation where your air pressure is a little low. This bumped up a little bit and pinched your tube. So it wasn't, in that case, it was not caused by something else that was sharp. All right, so you're gonna get your new tube. When you take your new tube out, you're going to pump it with a little bit of air. Make sure you've got, grab my pump here. Make sure that your tube has a little bit of shape to it. So not too much, but just enough so that when you put it back in your tire that it's going to hold that shape in there. Now it's really important before you reinstall your tube, make sure that in the event that you did have something puncture your tire, and if you couldn't see it from the outside of the tire, very, very carefully run your hand around the inside of that tire because you don't want to cut yourself. All right, so just be careful. If you find an item in there, go ahead and pull that out. Now, as I mentioned before, it's good to carry a dollar bill or maybe an empty energy bar wrapper or something. This is great and handy if in the event you got a cut in your tire and you need to create a boot. You're just going to put this in your tire between the tube and the tire, and it's going to keep your tube from coming through that cut that may have occurred. We're going to leave that dollar bill out for now. All right, another great little helper tip is to line up your logo of your tire with your valve hole. It's going to help you easily identify where to put your valve back in. All right, and if you've got one of these little guys, put them back on. And it's no biggie if it doesn't work out fast. A little too slow there. All right, so I'm going to take both hands and I'm going to push my tire on. I can go with both hands or I can keep one stationary and work the other around. If I do just one side, you'll find that the other side starts to undo at a certain point. And it's going to make it harder. So take both hands and work on here. This part can be a little tough. So you can use both hands, kind of leverage it a little bit. If it's too tough, keep one hand here and take your other one while making sure that you don't pinch the tube in here. Take your tire lever just inside there a little bit and work it up. Get in here a little further. And that just helps to get the tire on there. All right, so next we're going to reinstall this on the bike and then we're going to pump it up. All right, so now we're going to put our wheel back on our bike. Depending on what kind of your disc brakes are, it might be a little bit different, but you'll see I'm pulling on this back part of the derailleur and lining up the chain on the smallest ring. And that's just going to make it a little bit easier to bring the bike up and get it into the caliper here. My bike's got an interesting skewer that makes it a little bit more challenging. All right, got it in there. Using my knee right now to help hold this in place. All right, so it is back in here. You saw how it was a little bit easier having the chain on that smallest ring to get the wheel back in there. Get a little bit better angle for that. Give a little spin, make sure everything's shifted okay in its spot. All right, so next we're going to inflate the tire. And you can inflate the tire before or after you put it back on. Just for the purposes of this, I'm having it in the stand. Once you've got your, before you start inflating all the way, make sure you take your valve and give a little push inward. That's going to help to make sure the tire is not sitting on that thicker part of the rubber. All right. Press the valve, go ahead. Yeah, that, go ahead and open it up. Give a little test push. All right, get your pump on there. And your tire will tell you what your air pressure range is. It should be written on the tube or as part of the imprinted mold. So check that for your reference. All right, so as I'm pumping this, I like to check and make sure that little molded line that I pointed out earlier is looking really good all the way around. If it's puckering in, then I definitely, just need to keep putting more air in until it seats. But you want to check both sides. But if it's starting to bulge out, then you want to stop putting air in it, let the air out, and start over again. So you don't want your tube to pop out the side. All right, one last little bit. And there we are. I've got it's equal all the way around, so we are good to go. I'm going to take this off. Let some air out to wherever you need variety. You can pick your gauge or your pump to put back on to see what pressure you need for your ride. And that is it for that. Now do be aware some bikes have different types of braking. You may have V-brakes up here. Those work a little differently, but they open those up to drop your wheel out. All right, thanks so much for joining in today. Check out SheJumps out on Instagram, give us a like, and check out your region's SheJumps Facebook page for upcoming events.